Thank you. I know they moved some things around for me. I was running late. I decided to bring my daughter, my 5-month-old daughter, to this conference, which I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or a bad idea by the end of this. It's leaning towards a bad idea right now because I'm already behind on everything. So first of all, Dustin, Dr. Portella, amazing. He was actually the first person I followed on social media. And when I was first creating content, he would give me advice all the time. And we would all navigate these difficult situations together. So we have cumulative experience over the last 5 years just doing this content and running into all kinds of issues along the way. So we really do encourage more people to do this. It really has become a small community of us that all stick together and deal with the sort of keyboard warriors that seem to come after dermatologists every day. So I'm going to talk about some of the things I learned the hard way. I'm going to do this kind of like a YouTube video where it's going to be 10 tips that I'm going to impart to you that I've learned along the way. And that block, delete button works very well. Don't pontificate on what somebody else is saying negative towards you. That can ruin your entire day. They have a lot more time to respond to comments than you do. So just move on and don't think too much about it. And the last thing about dancing, I don't dance. Dr. Portella doesn't dance. It's not because I wouldn't, it's because I can't. And if I could dance, I would dance if it meant that I could educate people. I did one of these lectures maybe 2-3 years ago, and one of the people got up from the audience and was criticizing derms for dancing on TikTok. And I don't dance, so I could always be like, oh, well, that's not me. But somebody else on the panel said, well, everybody's dancing for somebody, right? Like you're either dancing for the insurance company or you're dancing for your patients in some way. So if you can have a meaningful impact on people's life, I don't think that there's a wrong way to do that. All right. So first off, I'm a board certified dermatologist, I hope. And I practice in New York City at Hudson Dermatology and Laser Surgery. I also have a skincare brand called Remedy. I also have a management agency where we represent dermatologists on social media. So my experience is not just my own, it's the cumulative experience of the several other dermatologists that we represent. And I create content on all the major platforms. All right, so 10 tips I wish I knew sooner. So first thing is I started with Derm Doctor, which was a great name. And I was very proud that I got this username, especially as a resident, which was a bold name to choose before you finish your training. But in the end, I probably would have chose my own name because people started identifying me as either Doctorly or Derm Doctor. Well, one, they weren't the same name, which is a disaster. And then the second thing is you want people to know who you are. You want to be a known entity as you grow your platform because you can leverage that name to go do other things, launch a brand, build a practice, and so on and so forth. So it's much better for consistent branding. People will learn your name and you'll be able to leverage future opportunities. Second thing is equipment. You know, I used to watch all these other people and I think, wow, their videos are so much higher quality than mine. Their audio is so much better than mine. How am I ever going to keep up with this, right? And I think a lot of you who aren't on social media are probably intimidated thinking, wow, like these people have such an amazing setup. How could I ever get on social media and make an impact? But it's your knowledge that's valuable. You don't need fancy equipment. Just start posting and you can optimize for that later. So I want to show you, this is how we first started shooting YouTube videos. We were on a couch in our residency, Dr. Maxfield and I. We shot on an Android phone. Our audio was horrible. But we had a unique point of view that I think people enjoyed learning about. And all of you have a unique point of view. So you would think, again, you know, there's so many other dermatologists that are doing this now. They're all saying the same thing. But the truth is that your content might resonate with somebody that I could never reach. They might look at me and say, I don't see anything similar to him in me. So I'm not going to take his advice. I'm going to take someone else's advice. Maybe they have the same skin tone. Maybe they have the same hair type. Maybe they just speak with the same accent that you have. And that might get across the line to accepting that education. So I still think there's room for everybody. And then now our content looks a lot better, but the message is still the same. And so we've gotten better with time, but even then that content resonated with people. Honesty equals longevity. There's an equation here. It doesn't actually add up to anything. But I don't think if you're not honest and you don't take this from an approach of actually trying to help people, you won't be able to do this over an extended period of time. It will never last because the trust leads to opportunities. Once you lose that trust, you lose the opportunities. So I think a lot of people that get on social media nowadays, they know that there is money in it. They know that it could be lucrative. And so they go for the money first, and that's their end goal. But if that's your end goal, the brands eventually abandon you because you don't have the audience. So you need trust to even work with brands. And so the first objective should be to educate and do it in honest and with integrity. So you lose trust, you lose the opportunities. And if you turn down the wrong opportunities, the right opportunities will come along. I remember when I was a resident and, we were barely getting by, we never had any savings, never. And I got a brand opportunity that could have been life changing for me at the time, but it was for an eye cream with fragrance. It's just one of the things I wouldn't recommend to my mom. That's my litmus test. And it was really expensive and it could have been life changing for me at the time. And it made me sick to my stomach to turn it down, but bigger opportunities came later. And in fact, the fact that I turned those down because there was an agency that had pitched this opportunity to me, they had imparted to another brand that he turned down this big opportunity. He clearly has morals, and what his recommendations are, they mean something to people. So it led to bigger opportunities because word spread that I had a code of ethics, and so I think it feels tough to turn down opportunities. You don't know if another one is going to come, especially early days, but they do come, especially if you have that trust. That's so important. Next up is protect yourself online. Who knows what's going to happen? I can give you a list. I'm doing a talk I think on Saturday, where I go through all the crazy things that have happened to us online. We've been sued, we've been named in lawsuits, we've been sent cease and desist letters. Nothing has ever amounted to anything, so that shouldn't discourage you from being online. But creating an LLC can protect you, and it has financial advantages. Putting in your profile, not medical advice. Like, no lawyer is ever going to say, "Hey, they put that in their profile somewhere," so that's really going to stop somebody. Having your username and your IP held in an LLC is a much better way to protect what you're doing online and keep it separate. Your brand deals, who you work with, should all be kind of separate from your medical practice, because you've built your reputation over 12 years. You don't want to squander it because of social media. And always have a lawyer review contracts. Everyone reviews their contracts once everything goes wrong. So just have somebody review it. It might cost a few dollars extra, but you'll learn from them from the first edits, and maybe you start making some of those changes yourself. Next up is asking people what is fair. This is kind of a tough thing because in medicine, we're always taught to never talk about money and never talk about the finances. And many of you speak on podium and many of you work with brands, and no one ever asks anybody else what they're getting paid. And I think that's how you get taken advantage of. In fact, I know because we have the agency and I work with a lot of other influencers that are not derms, and non-derm influencers know how to value themselves. They know how to pitch themselves. They know how to ask what's appropriate for themselves. But derms always feel like they should give everything away for free. And you should never give away anything for free, because people build entire companies on your backs. All these derm founded, derm created, derm tested, developed with derms. It's all us. And we built these brands to billion-dollar companies and we got nothing for it. So don't undervalue yourself. Your education is really worth something. And when you're working with industry, just ask your colleagues what they're getting paid. They don't have to give you an exact number, but a range, or maybe even, hey, like, what would you charge? You can ask me because I have the data from so many other people that are doing it, and I'll tell you how I'd price the post, or you can tell me what they're offering and I can tell you if it's fair. And your 12 years of education is valuable. You spent so much time building this. That's worth a lot more than what other people have. Next, this is negotiating usage. This kind of applies across the board. This is not just a social media thing. I've seen so many contracts where they want you to do something for them, and then they want to use your image forever. And the word in perpetuity I had to learn early on in social media. There's a lot of legal terms you learn along the way that you have no clue about, but you get pretty keen to it after you've reviewed a few of these. But in perpetuity means they can use your image however they want, forever, across all media till the end of time, even after you're dead. And so never agree to that, really. I mean, if it's at all negotiable, which it almost always is, even if you're working with a laser company, if you're working with a pharmaceutical company, you should limit that usage to a period. It has its advantages that I never realized early on. One, I just didn't want my image used forever, and so I limited it. But what happened was, if you limit it to 3 months or you limit it to a year, if they want to continue using your image, they have to come back to you. And then you can oftentimes charge them more, because if they're coming back to you, it means that they got something out of that first year and they want to use it again. So you can almost upcharge for your usage in year 2, 3, and 4. And so I've done work from 4 years ago that I still get paid for today. Next thing is consider your opportunity costs. So creating content's not going to be for everybody. I think a lot of you see people on social media, especially the residents, they all want to be on social media now because they see everyone doing it and they think it's the world's greatest thing. But creating content is time consuming. And what else could you be doing with that time? Could you be seeing patients? Is that going to be more valuable to you? Could you spend more time with your family? That could be even more valuable than money. Could you be doing traditional KOL opportunities, building your name within a network that you could do other things with? And is it worth it from a mental health perspective? I mean, crazy things happen on social media, you know, people will chew you up, and then sometimes you wonder, is it worth it? So this is my thing to say, not everyone has to do this. And I look at the derm influencers as like the communications department for dermatology. Not everybody needs to be in a communications department. People need to be doing other things also, right? So it's not for everybody, but I really think for me it changed my life. I would do it again over and over and over again. I love creating content, and I've had immense opportunities from it. Even being here today, this is beyond my wildest dreams to be able to do things like this. So to me, it changed my life, but it truly isn't for everybody. And so don't just feel like you have to do it because everybody else is doing it, because you could do many other things that would be equivalent in what you get from it in terms of not just financially, but just in terms of how you feel about what you do every day. Next up would be, there are guidelines for sponsorships on social media, and there are FTC rules where you have to post if you have a conflict of interest, and you must disclose this. And there's an entire guide, you can type it online, for the FTC guidelines for social media posting. You can say advertisement, ad, sponsored. If you put something like thank you to brand without saying it's sponsored, that's not okay. So just follow those guidelines, because even if the brand lets you get away with it, other people will call you out, and you can get, I've gotten a letter from the FDA for something unrelated, but you can get letters for these. And most of these things, these letters don't mean anything, but oftentimes they just say, hey, you were reported, and we've reviewed what you did, and we're not going to take any action against it. So just so you know, people will report you that are not necessarily the brand. Next up is posting patients. There has been some horror stories online of doctors losing their licenses, just in complete disrepute over this. So if you're going to post patients, you have to have consent, and that consent needs to be pretty ironclad. So either get a consent from somebody else who does social media regularly and just template it, or get a lawyer and have them look at it, because what happens on social media, you think, hey, I'm just posting this on my page. Everyone on my page is going to see this, and I have consent for that. But then that post goes viral, and everybody's using it on their page. Every dermatologist is reacting to it. Every other influencer is posting about it. It's now in books, it's in literature. And so that consent needs to be really pretty broad, and try to de-identify whenever possible. Okay, this is my last tip. This is mutual indemnification for product liability claims. So you're not just a regular person posting about products. You are a doctor with education, and you're considered authoritative in the field. And when you post about something, people consider it to be a recommendation. And you can get named in lawsuits. We were named in a class action lawsuit for a post that we made about a shampoo. And the brand was named in the lawsuit because they claimed that people had lost hair. And so we got named in it, but we had early on started putting mutual indemnification clauses, which are not standard in contracts for the most part. And so we always made sure to cover product liability claims in case the brand got sued. And because we had this mutual indemnification to cover product liability claims, the brand had to basically defend us, and then they dropped us from the lawsuit. So ultimately, it's very important to protect yourself, because you're not just an influencer, you're also a doctor, and your career is more valuable than what you're doing online. And so just always protect yourself. If you have any questions, all of us are very receptive to answering questions, and I'm glad to personally help any of you. So thank you for allowing me to be here.